You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today, it's Christos and Kristin. Patreon patrons, remember you can now watch All Good Things if you prefer consuming our show visually as an extended edit of this very episode. Hello, team. Christos, how are you today?
I'm super excited, and I just had another realization that you and I will be together in 5 days.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
One day, if you're actually listening to this drop on Thursday.
Oh, wow, that's even more unbelievable.
and Kristin will be right behind us, so we're having a meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Or
we
host,
are.
I guess.
Yeah. Did you say you've started packing already then, Kristin?
I'm pretty much packed. All I need to do is throw my makeup and any hair stuff into my suitcase, and I'm ready to go.
Wow.
I've planned all my activities for on the plane. They are in my carry-on. Then I'm bringing another carry-on that's essentially empty for shopping. And then I've got my clothes all packed. I was like, I need to go. It is time. So
It's time.
it is
No,
time.
I'm nowhere near ready. I mean, the only headspace I'm at the moment is when I choose to pick a pair of underwear this week, and I'm like, no, I'll not wear those because then I want those for stitches. So I don't.
Oh my God.
In the wash.
We are such gay men because I'm doing the same thing. I doing all my laundry this weekend, and I'm like, those are going right to the CHS pile because those are like good underwear, fun underwear. If someone sees those underwear, ooh, okay, yeah, that's how gay men think, people.
See, I don't have that problem. I'm like, I'll just do a load of laundry the night before, and we'll be good. And I've been, married for almost my entire life. So let's just say my underwear is nothing to write home about.
That just means that every pair of underwear is amazing, Kristin, and you
Sure.
don't have a decision.
We'll go with that.
Let's go with that.
I don't look full granny.
Yeah, James does all of my laundry and all of the packing for every holiday we go on. So he will just say, just throw it on the bed, and I just let him do it all. But we've both got quite intense work week, so he's off work on Friday, so he will be packing Friday morning for us to leave Friday afternoon. So
this is a little funny trip because it's kind of like the inverse of our normal summer get-togethers when we go to STLV, because STLV is like a little 2-hour trip for me or less, and it's like, okay, I pack and I go, but it's not a big travel day. So you don't have a big travel day, whereas the rest of us coming from America have very big travel days.
Yeah.
And it's more of it literally is a trek.
We do feel really fortunate that all of you guys are coming so far to come over to Europe for us to get together. It's really sweet when we all decided last year to do this instead of the cruise. Basically, we want to see each other, not necessarily pay a fortune to go on the cruise and see the same talks that we see. So
I gotta say,
how many pictures do we have?
How many what?
How many pictures do we have with Gates McFadden or whatever Star Trek celebrity? We just need ourselves to have our little Trek convention this time.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in this case, Justin and I are flying from Canada to Spain, spending the Sitges time with all of you. Then flying from Spain to Romania, spending a week in 2 different places in Romania. Then flying from there to Scotland, spending a few days in Edinburgh, and then flying home. 2 weeks, all those flights, first class flights, flying home. Yeah,
wow.
I'm gonna need that little pod. Still cheaper than the cruise.
No way.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yep. Because the exchange rate is so different, and the amount that we have to do in like Florida or wherever before we actually get on the boat. We're like, Justin has tracked all the spending to a penny. So we know exactly how much we put out on this. And then we look at the cruise, and I'm like, holy cow. I cannot believe that 2 weeks in Europe going to 3 different countries is cheaper than 1 week on a boat.
Now, just remember one thing, and you're not factoring this in, but it's a thing.
Meals.
On the cruise, all of our meals, and if you buy the alcohol package,
Right.
so you tend to, we're going to spend some money there, but it's all good. I'm sure the listeners are just enjoying us, like going on about these travel plans, but
I mean, the listeners
we're
know
excited.
our itinerary. If they want to come and visit, we know when we'll be there. Just come up to us in the street and say, hey, we're All Good Things listeners. We've come because we know you're here.
We've come to Spain to see you.
Yes. It'll be a Star Trek takeover. So, well, Kristin, first class. So I guess you are fancy pants after all.
Hey, one more quick little interesting thing about prices and traveling. So you get your basic coach thing, right? It includes nothing now. So then we look at, okay, so we're going to have to check a bag. We're going to have to pick our seat. We are going, it's a long trip, so we're probably going to have to integrate a couple meals or one meal into this flight. By the time we added all that up, it was a couple $100 more to just do first class that auto included everything. So we had budgeted the money. So we're like, well, I guess here we go. So this is my first time. So coming back home, and I'll need it because I'll be exhausted from all the fun. I get one of those little pods to sleep in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So anyway, not that I'm excited about coming home,
but I mean, that's the right way to do it, is it? To have the luxury on the return flight when it's usually a bit miserable and, Great.
Yes.
Oh. Well, before we start talking about Homeward, maybe we should start talking about Homeward, which is why we're here today. See what I've done there?
I like it.
How clever.
Yeah. Christos, would you like to introduce today's episode, please, and give us a little reminder of what happens?
Oh, sure. Well, we're in part 3 of our First Contact series. As Kelvin said, TNG's Homeward, which is the episode before Sub Rosa, everybody.
The preamble.
The preamble to Sub Rosa, yeah, exactly. And it's kind of appropriate. Beverly's in this episode quite a bit. So in an effort to preserve a race of people being bombarded by deadly storms, Nikolai Roshenko violates the Prime Directive, leaving his foster brother Worf and the crew of the Enterprise to deal with the consequences of him being sloppy. Sloppy. So this is also I would call a family episode as well. We put this in the family episodes, maybe. This is a good Worf family episode and a really good sibling rivalry type episode. And it's really if those of you who've seen the movie Star Trek Insurrection, we'll talk about some of the similarities of the plot of this movie. I mean, but yeah, it's a lot like that movie. I watched this episode again this morning to prepare for today, and it is definitely a season 7 episode. That is what I will say about that. Take that as whatever you want it to mean.
Well, season 7 is actually all about family.
Yeah.
So many family episodes as they're wrapping things up and closing off all those relationships. So let's start our discussion with delving a little bit into Nikolai Roshenko and the way he throws it all away for love and his relationship with Worf.
Yes.
So I mean, what do you think about the kind of the Worf-Nikolai relationship, with Worf being, the foster child and Nikolai is the biological child of Helena and Sergei, and that kind of dynamic? Because there's a lot made out of Worf's relationship with Kern as the brother, and it's so different to the relationship with Nikolai. So what do you make of it, Kristin?
It's funny because you know how they always do this argument, of is it nature versus nurture that makes a person? And some people are very the whole debate about like trans lives and everything is, well, however you're born is nature is more important. That's how God made you, blah, blah, blah. Now people say, no, nurture, it's who your society is, who you want to represent yourself, blah, blah. Worf is neither with his brothers. So he became a person all his own, and he does not resemble the nature of his relationship with Kern, nor the nurture of the relationship with Nikolai. It's so funny how he's so dissimilar from either of his brothers, period, right? And I find that very interesting and also very telling of Worf's overall resilience as a person or a Klingon, where he was able to overcome a lot of trauma in his life to really kind of know who he is as a Klingon in a human world, trying to bring that flavor. And I've always found Worf to be such a fascinating character. And I think seeing how he compares with his brothers really showing in this particular episode. It's just, we need a whole new way of studying this in the world of personality development.
Yeah. Christos, what do you think of that relationship?
Well, first off, Worf is just one tough cookie. I think he rises above everything around him, right? He's so responsible and honor bound. And, so Nikolai is quite the, just kind of reckless, lives, what do they say? Carries his heart on his sleeve kind of guy, does what he feels is right. And is in Worf looks at that as what, reckless and whatnot, and and Kern is, he's very honor bound, but he's very Klingon too, right? We see that in Redemption quite a bit, and just very much the Klingon way of doing things. So Worf is just kind of like that torn between two worlds kind of guy. I mean, he's the Klingon, the Starfleet, just being a decent person. I almost said human being, but decent person. He's that guy. I will say, like, Nikolai has no mention ever, right, until this happens in this episode, right? We just kind of comes out of nowhere, and there's this half brother or step brother. Okay, I mean that's just typical season 7 kind of hijinks, but it's like, suddenly there's a brother.
I thought we heard about him just sort of in passing and in stories before this.
I know there was a story in Deep Space Nine about Nikolai. I think it was to do with the whole, when Worf headbutts the boy when they're playing football and the boy dies, and he was talking about Nikolai in that story. I can't even remember the episode. God, my memory has failed me. What's going on? I know Christos is clutching his pearls right now. But I find I've got no agency to talk about this because I don't have any of this scenario, but I always get the impression with Worf that he's longing to be in a traditional Klingon family, but never got that because of what happened to him. So he's rejected by Klingons, saying, "You're not quite one of us, you're too human," which causes obviously pain for him. But he's pushing away from his human side with he's embarrassed by his foster parents when they come on the Enterprise. He's doesn't get on with Nikolai because of his values. And even though he's joined Starfleet, in some kind of way, it weakens him in the eyes of his people because they don't value it. So he's so caught in the middle there. And it's not often I feel sorry for Worf, but to establish an identity like he has, I think it's hard.
And it's funny how the rejection from their people about their time in the human world is so harsh, but like they didn't really have that much of a choice, right? Like Worf was orphaned, and so what was he just supposed to live without a family? Like the fact that the Rashenkos were willing to take him in is just beautiful. Odo, kind of same idea. His family sent him away, and then Spock literally was born half human. So it's gonna happen. But I find that the one opportunity that Worf had to kind of have a family, he invested the least in that, and that was being a father.
Yes, and we've arrived at the Worf bashing.
Well, okay, here's the thing. That is the
15
only
minutes.
thing. That is the only thing that I don't like about Worf, was how he was as a father. And this last weekend, of course, was Father's Day. And then there's that infamous meme that goes out. It's like, happy Father's Day to all the great Star Trek, not you, fathers out there. It's just, oh, Worf catching strays.
Yeah.
Well deserved, though.
It's interesting because watching this episode did make me reflect on my own relationship with my brother. And I don't know if it does similar for you guys. Kristin, I don't actually know if you have any siblings. Are you from a big family?
No, I'm not from a big family. I have one older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christos, I know you're from a large family, aren't you? You've got multiple brothers, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm Greek. I got a big family. I have 3 brothers, so there's 4 of us boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite timely, this reflection for me, because my brother and I stopped speaking over a year ago, probably 2 years ago, actually. We had a bit of a falling out, and we were never really close. But it took a lot of strength, I guess, where I had to say, for the purpose of my own mental health, I can't really deal with you, and I need to. It's quite a toxic relationship, and as strange as it is to say I'm cutting off my brother, I have done, because it's just not good for me. And my mum rang me. Well, yeah, she called me earlier this week saying, I know you don't speak to your brother, but he's going in for some major surgery into hospital this week. So if you could send him a text message to say, I hope it all goes well, it would be well appreciated. And I said, no, I'm not willing to do that, because I don't wish him unwell, but I don't want to open that line of communication. So please don't put me in a position and ask me to do that. But it was in this episode when Worf is talking to Nikolai, and he says, you've brought shame on all our family, and the amount of evenings you've caused our mother to weep. I could literally have been having that exact same conversation with my brother, because he's a bad lad. He's always in trouble with the police, and so and I was always held up to be, the good child, the reliable one. So that's quite a burden. So I have never, in all the time of doing this podcast, I feel empathized with Worf's situation. And I just thought it really weird how that's happened. This is the episode that we're doing this week, and that's what's happened in my own life this week. So, yeah.
I'm sorry that happened to you, because that is a very uncomfortable position to be in, where you have to make this decision, but you have to take care of your own mental health more than anything, right? And like you said, if you open that door, is that just going to be a slippery slope back into a situation that you've fought to rid yourself from? So, and again, going back, we talk about this, I think, every single episode on this show, is the importance of chosen family, right? Like, and I've mentioned this before too, is my brother and I are nothing alike. The only thing we have in common is the fact that we're both a little taller than the average person. All my cousins and I were very tall people. Thanks, Grandpa, for that. But other than that, like especially our political beliefs, my family is very, very conservative. I am not. And it does cause a lot of rifts in the family. As much as people say don't let politics, well, it's kind of hard when your family's literally hates people that you love and that you have in your life. And I was like, I can't. I just can't.
It's hard. It's hard when there's all these, the whole blood's thicker than water argument. Then you actually think, it's really not. I don't agree with that.
Do you know that that's not the whole saying?
No, I don't actually.
So it's not blood is thicker than water. It's the blood of the battlefield is thicker than the water of the womb, is the whole saying. So
wouldn't that make it the opposite way around then?
Yes. So it actually means that those that you have gone through life with and fought the battles and, come out the other side with, those relationships are thicker than those that you were just born into. So
you should be cross-stitching that.
Yeah. actually, I should be cross-stitching that. So
Yeah.
when people try to gaslight you with the blood is thicker than water, you can come back and go, actually. And I will never forget when I think I just found that out a couple years ago, and it blew my mind. So
Yeah, there's a lot of
blew my
comfort in
mind.
yeah, because I had that drilled into my head as a kid that doesn't matter what friends you make, your family is always most important.
Yeah.
Is it
That
though?
revisionist history bullshit. Oh,
Yeah.
There's the E button being pressed. You've got more of a traditional relationship, haven't you, Christos, with your brothers? I know I've seen you in family wedding pictures and things.
I guess it's definitely ups and downs. You know, there's a very thing, and this is very appropriate to Worf and Nikolai. You know, there's and I'm gonna paraphrase this. This is basically people in your life will look at you as the age or when they had the most power over you. Okay, so I always have to point out to my older brother, it's like, I'm not 13. You're talking, you're dealing with 13-year-old me because you think that's the Christos that you know. I'm not 13, the 13-year-old version of myself, and nor are you the 15-year-old version of yourself. So like, get over it. These things that you're trying to push my buttons with, which would push 13-year-old me buttons, are like lost on me. You just sound like a have-been bully is what you sound like,
Wow.
So that's my older brother. And then my youngest brother, who's actually technically my half brother, but I rarely ever point that out, but he and I are the closest. I mean, he's the one that literally we came home from school and every day at 6 p.m. we watched reruns of TNG together and went to the comic book store together and all of that stuff. We still, like, I was sending him pictures of my new fan home Star Trek ships yesterday and all that. We'll still geek out. And I think all of my brothers and I, that's the last thing that we have is we'll talk Star Wars, or there's a He-Man movie coming up, just all these throwbacks to childhood things that we had in common, because it's like the last area that we can talk about without it being a fight. And so with Nicholas and Worf, I think, Worf is also still kind of looking at Nikolai as when they were young. This is instead of like, because, if we get a little bit more into this episode a little bit, it's like, we also have a big Prime Directive discussion in this episode, right? Is it right to like watch this whole civilization die out because some Starfleet rule says it's the right thing to do? And Nikolai standing up for people and for life, and Picard and Worf are really, willing to say, let it go, and it's fine, it's what we're supposed to do. And then Picard tries to be all stoic on the bridge and say something. I almost wanted to slap Picard when he's look, we're just going to watch civilization die and do nothing because somebody at Starfleet 200 years ago wrote a rule and it's the right thing to do, when Picard has been known to throw the rule book out whenever it suits him, but I don't know. And then, you have like Beverly's a little bit on the side of Nikolai in this episode, you see, and then you would expect, of course, our doctor to be that, but with the Hippocratic Oath, and that's not the first time Beverly's had a problem with the Prime Directive, but like, Nikolai's not really that bad. I mean, he's a little reckless, but like, he's not wrong in this episode.
He's not wrong in his premise, but there's a lot that he does in here where he oversteps.
Yeah, well,
for sure. But I don't want to cut through our topic here.
Well, I'm guessing from the way you just phrased that, Christos, you do believe that Nikolai was right in saving the Barallans by, getting them off the planet before they died. Kristin, do you think do you agree with that as well? Do you think Nikolai was right in doing what he did?
I do. I'm totally about, like, let's do what we can do to preserve civilizations, especially those, we've lost so much just on Earth and in our history due to natural disasters and climate change and all of that. If there's a way to prevent that for other civilizations, why wouldn't we? Right? Why wouldn't we do this for them? It actually seems kind of unconscionable that we're letting them, that Starfleet wants to let them die out. I get non-interference, But sometimes I find that the way the Prime Directive is interpreted in certain situations, I was like, I don't know. Like, if they didn't know that they were being moved, that's not, for me, that's a very clandestine way of doing things. And it's not really interrupting or affecting their natural progression as a society. But where I do think he overstepped, though, is he got personally involved.
Yes.
And he introduced human DNA into this bloodline.
Yeah. So that's the extra layer, isn't it? That's you're not coming at this from purely, reasons of wanting to preserve. You've actually developed a relationship with. Yeah. I don't even know what the character's called. I keep calling her Cassidy Yates, Penny Johnson's character.
I keep on calling her Mrs. Cisco. But like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but like this whole business with the Prime Directive, I mean, like, so if it were like 200 years later and these people were more scientifically advanced, they'd be worth saving. Like, because maybe as long as they figured out that aliens exist, suddenly your civilization is worth saving. But if you're primitive to that point, that we've drawn this line in the sand, that if your civilization has evolved past this line, we're here to help. If not, see you later.
Because that's the entire premise of the one where the New Jersey guy comes forward in time to try to steal stuff. I forget the name of that episode.
Yeah, a matter of time.
Yeah, and they are working to save a planet, right? They're saving the people from dying, and they're doing a lot with Panthera 4 or whatever it's called. But then back in season 2 in Pen Pals, again, they were going to just let that entire planet die.
Yeah. It's very inconsistently applied, this rule, because if you think, I can't remember if I think it's Into Darkness, where, they freeze the volcano when Spock's on the tether. And they talk about Prime Directive, but actually they don't reference the fact that they've completely preserved this species, and that is breaking the Prime Directive because they're pre-warp. Yeah. So they're allowed to do it in the Kelvin timeline, but not in Prime.
And can we just really quickly, while we're talking about the Prime Directive, talk about the stupidest episode to have it as the crux of the premise, and as justice.
Yeah.
Like, he stepped on some plants. Let's calm down. Why is not allowing a young man to be put to death for stepping on some weeds the premise for war? It just...
Yeah, the Prime Directive can be problematic. It's too overarching and sweeping a statement that can't be just applied unilaterally.
Yeah. No, and then the episode First Contact, when Riker goes in undercover to try and like just scope out and get ready to make contact, they're like, oh, well, this has no effect. You can't say that, though. Any little thing you do could have such a butterfly effect through this civilization that you have no way of really tracking. You could like bump into someone on the street, cause them to be 5 seconds late for the next event in their life and not get hit by a bus. And therefore that entire civilization is changed. But they're like, oh, well, because he's got his nose prosthetic on, we're good. No. So I don't know, the whole concept of the Prime Directive, if you're going to do that, then you shouldn't be doing First Contact reconnaissance.
Yeah. Just finishing off with Nikolai, obviously he stays on the new planet with Mrs. Sisko. He literally gives up his entire career, life to start this new life with her and raise a family. So he's given everything up for love. With no going back, and he can't talk about his previous life. It's done. He's now undercover as an alien on an alien world. Have you ever given it all up for love? Have you walked away from a comfortable situation to throw caution to the wind for either a fling or a marriage? I'm curious because I don't think I have. I was really trying to. Now, clearly, I'm not going to go and get an alien woman pregnant. It's not going to happen.
You're not?
To anyone who knows me. But yeah, I had a tough time empathizing with this and passing judgment. So it was a question I wanted to ask of either of you two, kind of giving things up for love.
No. I had nothing to lose.
Oh.
And everything to gain. And I did.
Yay.
I've done the opposite. I've thrown away financial security and whatnot to walk away from relationships that weren't going well, to reassert my independence, and had to kind of take a few steps back and starting over again. And so, I mean, I think with Nikolai, this is more of like a second chance, a new life, a whole new, this isn't just love. This is like a whole new identity, a new way of being. It's more than like a fresh start, but it's so you can liken it to whether it's love or not. You can just look at this as, hey, this is a fresh start for him, and you are making a decision. There's no looking back, right? He's not going to be able to contact his parents anymore. He's not going to be able to contact, and and he's walking away from a lot of modern conveniences and technology. He's going to a more primitive way of existence. So there's a lot he's walking away from in here.
Huge. It's huge. But that lack of being able to see myself in that situation, it almost, I wanted to explore it here because it's such a big decision, but it's almost kind of a throwaway in the episode of, I'm just going to stay. And almost it avoids the consequences of his actions anyway, because he's staying on the planet with them. So he doesn't have to face the music back home.
So is that the real reason he stayed? Is he just using the baby as just like, I have to, one of us Roshenko boys has to be a decent dad. So I guess it's going to be me. Sorry, Worf, catching more strays.
Worf's got a newborn nephew though that we don't think about now.
Yeah, little crinkly nose nephew. But I don't know, just the way that Nikolai was kind of saying, this is what I was meant to do. This was what my life's purpose is to be with these people. That sometimes we don't know where life is going to lead us. And obviously, if he had been so like non-committal through the rest of his life, he sounds like he had always been sort of in and out of whatever. And then he finally found that one thing he needed to feel whole. Who are we to judge? I mean, maybe like overstep boundaries, sure, but he's staying. He's going to support them. He's going to allow their civilization to grow. So I don't know, it's hard to say what he did was quote unquote bad.
But with the season 7 aspect of this episode as well, there's a finality to that. This is the end of Nikolai's journey now. This is what happens to him, and they don't need to do any more episodes. It's done. Looking at the other kind of main story in the episode, the character of Voron when he leaves the holodeck, I'm curious to know what you felt of that kind of storyline of his reaction to finding himself in the 24th century as a fish out of water, and even like what the crew, in particular Troy, how they did or didn't have any success in helping him acclimate. I don't know. What did you think, Christos, of that aspect?
That was kind of hard to watch, right? First off, he's like getting rushed in 10 forward, and Riker does the right thing, like step back, give him space, let him breathe. Troy, by the way, she had some great hair in that scene. Just I had to say that. I liked that. I was, look at her. She's on a date with Riker. There's always that subplot in the background, right? With those two and Thadi. Anyways, there's a lot going on if you pull back that onion a little bit there, right? But he's a little overwhelmed, and we've seen the fish out of water thing, right? We've seen the Mintakans beamed up onto the Enterprise. We've seen First Contact, the movie. What's her face? Lily, of course, yes, beamed up and suddenly being exposed. And so we've seen before and after this episode this idea of what happens when somebody with primitive gets exposed to our Trek future technology. And it always goes a little bit differently, right? And of course, we pull in the trope of Dr. Pulowski's mind wipe. And of course, it's not going to work here because plot, you know. It would have been a little bit too easy if Dr. Crusher could just wipe his memory and have it work and put him back. It didn't work in Who Watches the Watchers, and it's not. They don't even try to make it work in this episode. It's just like, nope, that's not on the. And like Picard just accepts it in that little scene where they're walking down outside Beverly's office. There's just all these little things in this episode that kind of are like just cute.
But there's so many episodes where someone has come aboard and they find it so wonderful and futuristic, and they ask to stay and they want to be part of it. So to look at this example of someone who just cannot cope with this,
right? Like the episode First Contact itself, where Riker's in the hospital. But the one scientist that ends up staying on the Enterprise, she's just so opened up and into it. Of course, they're more technologically advanced as a civilization, so it's not as big a leap. Like in their mind, science fiction exists in that world, so this is just science fiction to her. But you know, like this poor kid, I don't know, whatever. He just can't cope with it and eventually commits suicide. It's all very tragic. And they're kind of like, it's the best outcome for what they're trying to pull off, and then Picard tries to show some remorse at the end. Oh, I would really wish I'd gotten to know him better. I had that opportunity. And I'm like, really? Is this going to be one of those like little, he's like the little science experiment of the week, and then we just throw it out the window and don't follow
someone's
up on
going to
it?
have to do. There's going to be an investigation into safeguarding lack of controls here, I think. So yeah, what did you think of this aspect, Kristin?
Very similar to what Christos was saying. I actually have to sometimes. There's a few Trek episodes that I have to skip through certain parts because I emotionally can't handle them. And one of them is this. And the other one is Half a Life.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Life is not over at 50. Or is it 60? Either way, it's too soon because I'm closer to those ages now than I am to the other ages. So I'm like, excuse you. So I definitely agree that this is just such a sad timeline. And I think a lot of it has to do with just, how not even just self-resiliency, but also, what this society believes about their place in the universe.
Yeah.
Like even with, let's say, humans, and one of us now got taken to and found ourselves on the Enterprise, I think we'd be able to, we would be like, hell yes, let's go.
I'm staying.
Right? I am not. Have you seen it down there? That is a dumpster fire and a half. However, if they took somebody from, let's say, the 1700s, or even before then, when the scientists all thought that the universe revolved around the Earth, and we were the center of the universe and the most important thing, blah, blah, blah. I don't think they would have been able to handle it very well. So I think a lot of it has to do with how you see yourself in the universe. And I see myself as a tiny little speck in the universe. So however other people or other civilizations are living, you do you. But if you think that you are right and there's no other way but you and what you think, that'd be hard to realize that what I believe is being proven wrong in front of my face.
Would you, I think I'm taking it for granted here that all of us would choose to stay and love it. But if you did take that decision where they said to him, you can go back and keep this secret. If you were in that position and you did go back to everything you knew and your loved ones, would you be able to keep that secret? I don't know. Would you? Well,
if I knew that Nikolai also knew the secrets, then at least I would have somebody to share it with, right? I would not be entirely alone. So, that's what deathbeds are for, right? You just let it all out on your deathbed and go, just kidding. Guess what, guys?
By the way,
BTW.
It's all in the will. Well, what's also going to happen in the society that when years later scientists find this split in the DNA and suddenly
Yes.
alien DNA has been introduced, and yeah, I mean there's such a small group of people that survived that it's gonna be kind of incestuous anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are gonna
Yeah.
have problems.
There's going to be a lack of bone development a few generations down the line for these. But
Yeah.
even like that new planet they're on,
Yeah.
there's going to be all sorts of investigations to show that the remains of these people that have got nothing to do with that ecology. They don't
Yeah.
where they come from. They don't fit. There's you can imagine like a Starfleet Academy episode many hundreds of years later from this, where someone's maybe a paleontologist on that new planet saying, "Oh, look, what we found."
How come
It's
Lower
weird.
Decks didn't show up? I'm surprised it's one of those episodes that Lower Decks didn't follow up on.
Or Second
They
Contact.
missed
Yeah.
opportunity.
You know what this kind of all reminds me of, Kelvin, when you're talking about people going in and doing that, is when people started jumping on board with the whole like 23andMe and all that and finding out, and they're like, oh, and their cuts like come out, they're like, hey, I'm 10% African American, and they're trying to brag about it. And I was like, I don't know if you know what that means, but you probably shouldn't be bragging about it. Yes, it's part of your history and you can't be held responsible for what your ancestors did, but you realize that this proves that maybe some not great things happened in your family history, right? You understand, right?
I'm the British one here, so I'm gonna have to take that. We traveled.
Yeah. Bless. Yes, you did.
Not my fault.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I get it. It's so weird. I mean, if this is too triggering a subject matter to end on, please say. But obviously, we know what ended up happening with Voron. We know the decision that he took. Can you comprehend that decision of it? This monumental reality-changing revelation pushed him over the edge, and he would rather die than deal with it. I think it, like you said, it did neatly tie up the storyline for the episode, so the consequences didn't have to deal with. But someone's died. What do you think? What do you think of it, Christos?
One thing we didn't really say is, like, first off, a lot of people died. Most of the planet died right before this episode starts, right? And Picard was ready to let everybody die. So the fact that just one person's died by the end of at least the people who start the episode, it seems like, well, they were all going to die anyway, I mean, that's what's kind of funny, where Picard has this, like, a little bit of remorse at the end, because, like, hey, 20 minutes ago, you were ready to let everybody die, buddy. And now you're sad that this guy committed suicide. Let's talk about that. Yeah, it's a little neat, like I said, having, and of course you have that, like, Picard and Beverly moment where they got to talk about it so they don't seem like horrible people, and make it. But it's like, no, Picard, you were really let all these guys die. So it's neat. It's sad to me. It's funny. That's the most sad part for me about this whole episode, is the guy that commits suicide. I think that's the harder part to watch with, because you just found that everything's so overwhelming that you felt it easier to take your own life than to, like, deal with reality. And that's an overarching suicide discussion in general, that you just felt so alone, and so, like, this is the easiest way to do with it. And they try to call it a ritual suicide, like it was something. No, it's just suicide.
I would have much rather, I mean, don't come for me, Christos, but I would much rather it been a Picard and Troy conversation than Crusher, because ultimately there's been a failure in the care for this guy. He wasn't under close enough supervision, didn't have the relevant support. Someone's dropped the ball there. And
her name's Troy.
It would be very easy to drop it at Troy's door. Thank God Amy's not here. God, she'd have us.
No, it's not the first time that, like, we've seen this, where it's like, we have the guy standing outside the door with the phaser. What's that all about anyway? That's like, no, this guy needs mental help. He needs the medical team, not the security team. And yeah, we've seen this before. and where, it's like people have committed suicide. What's the Romulan, he commits suicide.
Yeah. With his little Barocca pill. His vitamin C tablet.
Yeah, and like Worf, come on, you didn't figure out that he had that on board?
What do you think, Kristin? Can you wrap this up for us?
One's choice to end one's life is nobody's business but their own.
Oh, well said.
I used to volunteer with the Medical Assistance in Dying program here in Canada, where I would go around as the independent person and talk the people through what would happen in this process and have them sign the legal paperwork because I'm the impartial third party. And I tell you, like, some of the people looked unsure. And again, it was like, we're not forcing the pills down your throat in 5 minutes. Like, this is science. So in case you are unable to make this decision later, you have it as an option. But some people, the look in their eyes, they were ready to end this part of their life. And people who are trying to take that away or say that it's evil, they're bad, I don't agree with that. It's their life, it's their existence, and they are in charge of it.
Right. So would you say the kind of the avenue I just went down of saying there's a failure of care here, are you saying it's actually not really about that? It's just about accepting that Voren chose this decision and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think at a certain point, if this is what someone is going to choose to do, and this is the route that they have decided they're going to take, no amount of care is going to change that. And I've seen that a lot with the people that we serve through my agency. We try to put community supports into place, mental health supports, substance abuse supports into place, but they always go back to what they have decided is the way they want to live. And unfortunately, a few times it has resulted in overdoses, whether they're accidental or not, and other forms of intentional suicide. And we can't look at that as us failing, because we did everything we can. At a certain point, we do have to realize that this is just where they are in their life. And that is, it's sad. Yeah. And maybe some of us can't comprehend it. Some of us can. I went through a time in my life where I had considered it several times. And, I was really fortunate that I was able to be pulled out, mainly because finally someone in my life was like, I think you need some mental health supports. Growing up in the church, those weren't really popular. It was just, you pray and you'll get better. And then I met Justin, and Justin was like, I think there's more going on here. And he helped me through the system to finally talk to my doctor and get put on some medications and other forms of therapies. And that helped. Right. So the fact they did everything, but even if it hadn't, let's say, right, and I had made that decision, I would not look as though this was a systemic failure for myself. It was just I was done. I didn't ask to be born, so I should be able to make the choice of when this is over.
I mean, I absolutely agree with all of that in theory, but this was like all happens in like 24 hours. Like if this guy had committed suicide like 30, 60, 90 days from now, I would totally accept what you said, but we didn't even really get a chance to even deal with this. This guy's in the middle of dealing with trauma. It's just all happening right now. If after all the therapy and whatever in the world, all the attempts at least, and he still made that decision, I'd agree with you 100%. But this all happens like in a matter of like 48. This whole episode happens like in 48 hours.
And again, we don't know what their cultural beliefs are, right? There are cultures out there that do believe that if something happens to you and that you could potentially become a burden on the rest of your society, the honorable thing to do is to end your life, right? So maybe he was like, well, I'm never going to be able to be the same. I'm never going to be able to keep this secret. This is the honorable thing for me to do.
Yeah. Quite timely, actually. In the UK here in the last 24 hours, we've just passed the assisted dying bill, which is
all that.
hugely groundbreaking. With people for against it, with very passionate arguments. So again, this is so timely, this episode. Let's switch it up a little bit and go to our assimilations and regenerations, starting off with some things we did like about this episode. I'm just going to start. It is such a nonsense, but it did make me smile. The sign of LaForge, when they're trying to get Geordi to fix the holodeck when it is failing, the discreet kind of way of saying, hey, Geordi, can you help us, please? I thought that was nicely done. I thought it was a great touch. Christos, have you got any assimilations for this episode?
I do like the idea, and technically it's a little bit centered around Worf, but it's a good ensemble episode in my opinion. You see a little bit of everybody, the Enterprise crew kind of working together and various strengths of what they do. You know, you got a little bit of Beverly and Troy in this. You got some Geordi. You got a little bit of Picard and Riker. It's a good, like, everyone's got something to do in this episode, and I enjoy when the cast is fully utilized and doing what they specialize in. Brilliant.
How about you, Kristin?
I want to give a shout out to the casting directors on this episode, because Paul Sorvino, who plays Nikolai, was the perfect amalgamation of the two actors that we are introduced as the Rishenko parents.
Yeah, he is.
He looks so much like the mom, and then just sprinkling in a little bit of that dad. I was like, he looks like he would be their biological child.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I felt that was a very I don't know, I felt that it had to be like, yep, no doubt, that is the Rishenko boy.
Any other assimilations before we move on to regenerations? I think there might be a few more in that list. It's I don't personally feel this episode has aged very well. Any more assimilations, or do you want to jump in straight with a regeneration, Christos?
I like a regeneration. So I could have solved this episode for you. This is one of those ones where by this late in the show, we know enough about how the Enterprise as a starship operates that we would know what to do to solve the problem. You know, it's like when you say, well, I would just use a shuttlecraft, or I would just do this, you know, especially when you're reading some of the novels. But so for me, once we knew that the holodeck was on the fritz and it needed to be shut down and reset, you know, I would have just waited for nighttime, flooded the holodeck with anesthetizing gas, let them all stay down for a little while, reinitialize the holodeck, turn the program back on, and everything's fine. And that poor little boy would not wander out the door and die by suicide. So here is your Christos solve the problem for you outside of the, you know, the what I call it, the problem, the rules we try to write for ourselves to make the story make sense. But there's always those Trekkies know how the ship runs. We know
what Christos ruins the episode, depending which way you look at it.
Here to help.
What about you, Kristin? What are you regenerating?
Well, okay, so the one thing I'll say is the age difference between Nikolai and Deborah, whatever her name is. That's a little much for me. I thought it was a little icky, to say that, like, in real life, the actors are over 20 years apart. So I don't know. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I also just felt that this was some sort of just unnecessary trope of the white savior.
I'm interested. My regeneration is very similar to that. So I'm interested what you think when I phrase it this way. I think they were quite lazy with the Baralans in that they didn't seem very alien. They just seemed generically primitive. So obviously the makeup was very lazy as well, just a little doings on the bridge of the nose. But just the society and what they tell of us, and their attitudes to women, that scene of my daughter's not been promised to anyone, will you have her? It's just so crap.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. You could have made them a bit more alien. You could have given them something a little bit more unique to deal with than gender stereotypes of primitive people.
Well,
could do better.
Yeah, didn't it just like basically make them like medieval Europeans? I mean,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
like,
Not
It's a little,
alien.
no, little lazy writing, right? Where all of the things that they're saying and their belief system, I was like, we've seen this on Earth before. This is not new. Like you said, Kelvin, it's not alien, it's primitive. And there's a very big difference between those two things. So, no, and for them to swoop in and him to be like, oh, I'm going to save them all. I was like, of course you are, because you're a straight middle-aged white man. And that's just what you do. You just save people. No offense, but y'all got privilege, like privilege.
Yeah. Any more regenerations before we jump into some trivia?
One minor one. When the Enterprise first gets hit by like the little plasma interference at the beginning of the episode, and it's really when he beamed him up, I guess, or whatever happened there. And like security goes to deck 10 and they're looking for this, power surge. It's like you didn't see like any of Geordi or Geordi's team there. It's Worf and security, because of course Worf's going to find the problem because it's his brother. Instead of it being like Geordi and Data down there, because it's literally an engineering problem on the ship. We don't feel like there's intruder alert, right? This is an engineering problem, and it's security down there, and it's just the plot point again that it's got to be Worf that finds his brother doing all this.
Oh, spot the director with the misappropriation of resources.
Once again, we know that by season 7, we know the Star Trek universe too well. We know how the ship runs. Now we're just doing things for plot and story, not the way you would actually do it by, if you were in command of the ship.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to one more thing too, and this is a regeneration actually of Picard. Oof, never thought I would do that. But it was talked about earlier how he was fine letting the whole society die, but then he mourned greatly the death of Soren. And I think that's just when we're talking about mass deaths and whether it's war or natural disasters around the world, when it is just theories and just like nothing tangible, we're like, oh, well, that's just life. Then we see faces and we're able to put faces to the name. And suddenly it's like, oh, crap, these are actual real people.
This has happened to yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
It's Iborg.
Yes. Right. It's well, now I need to think. And look how he acted in that one. He was able to change his mind in that one. This group, this whole alien species, they matter. And so I will give Nikolai the props for doing what he did and realizing that once he got there and started seeing how they lived, they became real to him. They were not just a statistic in a book. They were real, and he was going to fight for them. And how he stood his ground against Picard, who was like still stuck in that they're just a statistic in a book, was really amazing. Just being alive, being here in this planet, the amount of history that has to happen for you to be existing today, you are valid as you are. You don't need justification for anything else. And these people were valid as they were, and they deserved the support and the help that they got.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap that up there, Kristin. Well done. Let's jump into some trivia. Okay, so this is the first time on Star Trek that we see Michael Dorn, Worf, without his Klingon makeup. But it's not until DS9's Far Beyond the Stars that he's seen again not wearing any prosthetics at all, when he plays Willie Hawkins in an episode that also featured Penny Johnson.
Also, this is the first time as a kid where I was watching this, because I'd always had a crush on Riker. And this is my first time watching it. I was like, Worf is I was like, wow, that's a handsome man. Because you can't really see it with the Klingon.
He's got a lovely smile.
He's got a lovely smile. And Far Beyond, I mean, Michael Dorn was and still is a looker. Like, he's a handsome man. The footage of the planet Vaca 6 is a reused image of Kronos from Sins of the Father. Ooh.
Is it? So I wonder.
Yeah.
There's that, but I wonder what happened after the special edition remasters were done. Like, 'cause they did change a lot of the way the planets looked when they remastered these episodes about 13, 14 years ago. So I just wonder if that's still true, or if it's just, back to the original edits of these episodes.
Yeah.
Anyways, somebody tell us. The idea of using a holodeck to transplant alien race without their knowledge would later be used in Star Trek Insurrection. I told you. When the Sona worked with the Federation to remove the Baku from their homeworld. During early development of the film, Michael Piller and Rick Berman referred to this plot point as the Sorvino Switch, after Homeward guest star Paul Sorvino. So just my little quick 2-second rant. We came off of an amazing movie called Star Trek First Contact that basically did a really good job of getting people to watch Star Trek, even if you weren't a big TNG or Star Trek fan. And then they move right into the next movie, and Insurrection has commonly been referred to as, it's kind of like an episode, because it's like the stakes of it all. It's like an episode with a big budget. It's like a two-parter, and it's like they knew exactly what they were doing when they were making this. They knew that it wasn't a big enough idea. They knew it was a ripoff of an episode we've already seen. And so when this movie started to kill the franchise for a time being, it was self-inflicted.
I like Insurrection because I love it when they're all noticing the difference of like their bodies, and they start talking about how firm their boobs are, and then Data like doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, yeah, don't you also know? I always found that funny. And then is this the episode where Worf gets that giant zit?
A gorge.
The gorge. Oh my gosh, that made me just cackle. But sometimes you just have to realize this is some fun science fiction. Just sit back and just relax.
Yeah,
not everything has to be.
I agree with that in the sense that it's a fun watch, but it wasn't good business.
It's no First Contact, let's face it.
It's no First Contact.
Yeah, you're when you have a big hit movie, your goal is to top it, or at least match it. And they did not. They put themselves in a corner where it was almost impossible to happen.
But that's Star Trek. Look what came after the voyage home.
Oh God, that's an entire other conversation. We don't have time for that.
Don't get me wrong.
Good thing I haven't had breakfast yet.
If you want, what's fun is you take a couple gummies and then you watch The Final Frontier. Completely different perspective, because you're like, whoa, everything is just.
This is also no coincidence that this trivia has landed on me, because the star date for this episode would have it taking place before the previous episode, the Pegasus, whereas that episode's star date is 47457.1. So when I did watch in Stardate order, I watched Homeward before Pegasus.
Well, then it would also be happening before These Are the Voyages.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like,
shots fired again.
I get that sometimes Trek fans can be a little bit too much with their continuity and everything, but there are also very simple things that y'all should be watching, and star dates are one of them. Like, this is literally
season 7. They should know that.
You should know how dates work.
That's why they had to have me and Kelvin working as creative consultants.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes,
it's
please.
true. So Paul Sorvino's request to appear on the series came just as this role of Nikolai was set to be cast. And so producers immediately felt that Sorvino was an actor who would best embody what they were looking for in this character.
Wow.
I love it because it's very much like when we talked about Tom Morga. Right place at the right time, and you just fall into where you're supposed to be in the Trek world. And so
it's kismet.
It is. And so when I read that, I thought it was really interesting that he's like, hey, I really want to be on this series. Actually, we need someone exactly like you.
Nice. So Penny Johnson, as we all know her, would later go on to play the regular role of Cassidy Yates in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, while Brian Markison also appears in DS9 as Elias Giger in the cards, and on Star Trek Voyager as both Pete Durst and Thulon in Faces and Cathexis. I always had a hard time with that one, and it's a little hard on my list.
Yeah, but we covered Cathexis only a couple of weeks ago.
He's totally Durst. I knew I recognized that sullen voice.
I recognized him, but thought he was Vorik, Alexander Enberg. He looks and sounded a bit like him, so it wasn't until I saw that research I went, no, it's Durst. It's that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Final thoughts. Who did it best? Oh, sorry, Kristin. Have you got something else to add there?
I just came across a very interesting trivia for this, or trivium, I guess. So scenes of this were filmed outdoors in the Bronson Caves area of Griffith Park at the same time which wildfires occurred there in November of 1993. As a result, cast and crew had to be evacuated for a brief time, which resulted in a reshuffling of the film schedule. But no props or filming equipment were lost to the fire. I'm sorry, is that life imitating art? Their original setting was at risk due to natural disaster, so they had to move everything. That's the episode.
It was also quite unlucky. I mean, it was Genesis is right around this time too, and they also had the earthquake mess with that episode. So during the big northward quake happened during the production of the Genesis episode. So yeah, season 7 had some natural disaster type interference on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're only on episode 3 of this First Contact series, so it's not a huge list in terms of who did it best, but previously covered, we've got Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet, and TNG, Who Watches the Watchers. So who did it best, Kristin?
I think I'll have to go with Who Watches the Watchers. I think that's the quintessential episode about first contact going awry, and of course we're seeing that again come out at now the end of the series, but I think I enjoyed the conclusion of Who Watches the Watchers more because they were able to better support the Mintalkans through that, and no poor young man had to kill himself. So I'm gonna go with Who Watches the Watchers.
I am a carbon copy answer to that. So that is me. What about you, Christos? Who did it best?
Well, it's certainly not Homeward. So I'm of two different schools of thoughts of this, but I do have a winner. So Who Watches the Watchers for me is like quintessential Star Trek. For me, I remember watching that episode as a very young kid, and it was like, it felt like this is one of those first episodes where you're like, TNG has really upped its game. It's really early season 3, right? It's like, you know, and you're like, oh, this show just got that much better. It looks better. The production looks better. Gates McFadden's back. It's just, and it's a good episode, and we still talk about it. It's like, it's one of those first episodes I think of when I think about Star Trek: The Next Generation, believe it or not. And so there's that. And then Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet is excellent Star Trek. It's really, really good. It's also a little bit of the, you know, if we go back to that Prime Directive debate, you know, they're out there trying to save this planet instead of just letting nature take its course. But whatever. So I'm going to go with Who Watches the Watchers. But Children of the Comet is really good Star Trek, especially new Star Trek.
Yeah. Agreed. For me, not picking Children of the Comet has nothing to do with me not thinking that is an amazing episode. It's just, I think Who Watches the Watchers is part of my life a lot more. Yeah. I
think our age lends all three of us to pick that episode.
Yeah.
We're showing our 40s here, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Calling all audiophiles and Trekkies. Prepare to boldly go where no podcast listener has gone before with the diverse soundscapes of BQN. We're not just a network, we're a universe of exploration entertainment, and deep dives into the topics you love. Here's your star map to the sonic adventures awaiting you. Charting the Star Trek cosmos, we have all good things. Embark on a comprehensive journey through the entire Star Trek universe with insightful crew of Amy, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. From classic to current, they cover it all. Galaxy Class, Engage. Stephen and Stefan pilots this deep space mission, meticulously covering all aspects of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Infinite Diversity. Stay current with the newest Star Trek frontiers alongside Chrissy and Thad. Union Federation. Whether your allegiances lies with Starfleet or the Planetary Union, Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley offer a unified front discussing both current Star Trek and the truly Trek at heart, the Orville. Crack open that book with Peter and the Trek Book Club podcast. Delve into the rich tapestry of Star Trek's beta canon. What's the T-Bab? Christos spills the latest Trek news and fandom insights with an essential LGBTQIA+ perspective, complete with engaging guest interviews. Our visual voyages that you can find on YouTube, as well as a podcast, our Trexperts quiz. Think you're a Starfleet Academy graduate? Test your knowledge with Davey and MC's challenging Star Trek quiz show. And the View Screen. Tune in live on Sundays for your dose of Trek-inspired talk show. Kelvin and Amy host new 8-week seasons each spring and fall. Beyond the final frontier, we have Bargain Bin Gamer. Davey and Mitch, your self-proclaimed gamer guides, lead you to digital treasures, unearthing and reviewing the most affordable video game gems. Cinema Z. Grab your metaphorical popcorn for Mark and Matt's cinematic deep dives, unearthing overlooked films that demand your attention. History with the Szilagys. In order to never repeat it, tune in as Chrissy and Jason deliver bite-sized snippets of historical events from around the globe. And Transformational Journeys. Lex Rosa explores what it means to embrace authenticity in the face of societal expectations. To unlock deeper levels of engagement, try our patron perks. The Hive Mind is where you can join our random script readings, live reaction shows, and roundtable discussions. And check out our back catalog of It's Green, a verdant cornucopia of topics offering diverse and engaging conversations, and Amy's Math Moments. Discover the subtle and not so subtle mathematical wonders woven into the fabric of Star Trek. You can stay connected to our ever-expanding galaxy of content by following at BQN Podcasts on Instagram, Bluesky, YouTube, and Discord. We appreciate you choosing BQN to fill your auditory needs. Thank you for listening. Assimilate the audio.
That's all for now, listeners. Team All Good Things are headed to Riza, as if you didn't already know. We've been talking about it for weeks, for our well-deserved holiday. And we're all excited because this is like the first time all 4 hosts of this show are actually holidaying, I think, at the exact same time. As hosts, we've been on the cruise together, but not when Kristin was on. Kristin had not joined us yet. But so anyway, so that's a long explanation. But we'll be back in a few weeks. Make sure you check your socials and just stay subscribed to us, actually. And your next episode will just drop in naturally, even if you don't pay attention to your socials. But otherwise, we'll be beaming to Sitges, Spain, and beyond.
Kristin, what are we doing when we are back in a few weeks' time? I may have switched up the episode order here, so there's a little bit of a deliberate choice of what we're doing next.
Yeah, it's very apropos because the next episode will be a Shore Leave Part 5, The Captain's Holiday. So my question, do either of you have any like metallic little booty shorts to wear in Stitches that's going to look like Captain Picard.
Well, James actually has those exact shorts. If you remember, we did Picard and Vash on the Ricenites. So I had my black swimsuit and the pink cardigan, and James has those actual Picard shorts walking around with his book, because he literally just wanted to read his book and be left alone all week. He is Picard on holiday, and has a lot of gobby Americans talking at him constantly. So he's got all of that next week. I can't wait.
You guys have me rooming with you guys in the flat, so we'll see how much private reading time we actually allow him, and not like party time.
If James needs private reading time, him and I can hang out over in my flat, and we can just pour ourselves a little vino and just chill and read in silence.
Oh, he'll definitely take you up.
Okay. See, there's something for everybody. Something for everybody on this trip.
Yeah.
Okay, we would love to hear what you thought of today's show, and there are many ways you can do this. You can join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or you can join our Discord server, or you can join us on Bluesky or Instagram at BQN Podcast to continue the discussion there. And you can find the links and the invite code in the show notes. So, Christos, where can people find you when you're not saving species from natural disasters while secretly knocking up a local?
I'm not knocking up shit.
No.
You could find me in Features, actually. No. You could find me on Instagram and Bluesky at Greek Geek SD or at What's the T-Bev. Find me in our BQN Discord server, the BQN Facebook Collective or group, BQN Collective on Facebook. Sorry, said that a little backwards. And yeah, so I'm all around. I'm easy to find. So Kristin, where can people find you when you're not just casually having drinks with Riker and 10 Forward?
Oh, I wish. You can find me on Instagram at KStrats. And most active is on Reddit with user Garrick's Fan Club. Otherwise, I've been noticing myself online less and less. I just doing a bit of a social media like purge lately, or pause or whatever, and man, it's good for the mentals. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not arguing with your brother?
Well, they can find me living my life and having a great time. But if you did want to come and get me, you can find me at Kelvin's Timeline on most of the socials, or you can hop on a flight to Barcelona and travel 20 minutes to Sitges, where you'll find me sat on Judgment Square outside Parrots with a cocktail, or on Burr Alley every evening of the week having a great time.
Bear Alley.
Oh, you
sign me up.
You will be educated.
Okay, I'll bring my Star Trek harness. Let's go.
Hey.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Fly reaction show, script readings, and monthly Hive Mind discussion groups. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a 5-star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show.
At this time, we'd like to thank our very own associate producer, Jenediah Seastrom. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and Kelvin for our artwork each and every week. We do look forward to that. Kelvin actually gives us like 4 or 5 choices sometimes, and we vote on them. So don't think that there's not care that goes into the artwork every week.
Yeah.
Like a democratic process.
It's fun. And then, and for the record, if we ever tie, host gets the win. That's how that goes down. You can blame the host.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.